Good afternoon, everyone. Hope all is well. Today is September 24th, Thursday, and as you know, between today and tomorrow, we'll be finalizing our plans for the opening on Tuesday, receiving students from K to 5, and we're very excited about that. So the intentions today is to, in a sense, share with you our current status of where we are, our planning, our thinking, and preparation. And the more information you have, the better we all are. This deck itself will be not only recorded on our school website, but also the PowerPoint itself will be there for your reference at any given time. So thank you for your time and allow me to walk through a series of important slides and updates. And again, if you have questions, always reach out to us. So to begin with, I would like to once again start with I don't do it enough and I think we need to. I want to start by saying thank you and welcome to, special welcome to our families that are joining us for the first time. Really not the best start at PS 42 or any New York City public school or any school in our city, state, and country. As you know, this pandemic is causing a lot of frustration and concerns. And from a kid's point of view, school is very special. So, but we are making the best of it, and welcome to PS 42 if you're new to the school family. And it is a family. And so I also want to celebrate our PTA, welcome our PTA led by Rosanna Gottlieb. Rosanna and her leadership, along with the entire PTA Association, they're organizing a PTA meeting that will be advertised on our school website, as well as our teachers will help message that out. And every one of our meetings under these conditions will be held remotely. A special thank you to our school leadership who met with me regardless of schedules and what was going on over the summer, met with me every time decisions and updates need to be discussed and shared. So thank you, school leadership team, for everything that you do. Our faculty they're outrageous, they're wonderful. Our paras, our teachers, our school aides, school assessment team, you name it, secretaries, our parent coordinators, food services, they've been serving meals since March. Same thing applies with our custodial staff, has not taken off during this whole process, our school safety and our assistant principals. So thank you all. I'm grateful for them because our school is successful because of the team and the collaboration we have with families. And of course, a special thank you to you all. I'm not giving you the company line. I'm being honest with you. Your patience is greatly appreciated. Sometimes when you're upset and you need to vent, that's what we're here for too. And you feel good about something, whatever it is. But thank you for your reflections. And every single parent inquiry or question helps. It helps us. Not only we're satisfied looking to help you, but your questions help us in our thinking and planning. We come to work every day and we want to do right by all of you. And at the same time, trying to navigate all these waters and keeping everyone in a good place. So thank you, families, for your patience. So allow me to start by once again going over what I think is important because it builds context of who we are and where we're going. Our current registers, folks, we're still in a very in a good place to continue operating in the fashion that we're operating. The last time we did this, we were about 1,074. So what's happening is a lot of our families through frustration and also because of family care and child care and just really needing to have schools in a different capacity, our enrollment shifted slightly. And so we're hoping this doesn't trend, but we also understand that every one of those conversations, some of our families are moving out of state and some of our families are going to private school. Due to the need for the child care and the continuous 5 days of instruction. But right now, with this said, the 1,060 students, 32% of our students are full remote and 68% of our students are enrolled in blended learning. If a family wants to shift from one practice to another, please utilize the information on this slide. And if you want to go from full remote back into blended, there's a site you have to visit, utilize the Learning Preference Survey, and there are windows for that. It's not just happening overnight. You have to get permission from the district superintendent's office, as well as we have to schedule We have social distancing concerns and scheduling concerns. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. The intentions of today's meeting and sharing of information, I'd like to go over and provide some insight regarding the blended learning models. Really a deeper dive into health screenings for both staff and students. Of course, hand washing and student safety and health, student schedules for in-person, and the arrival dismissal practices that we'll be utilizing. Build-in policies that are really customized around PS42. We have 2 buildings, a big campus, and so what does that look like when it comes to bathrooming, hallway circulation, visitors to our buildings, and the isolation room in case a child's sick. We have new information now, busing information finally started to surface. And so busing information I can share with you, as well as my thinking around related services and our current status with our annex building facility. I'd like to spend some time and be truly transparent and reflective with you on that. And of course, what to do if you have any questions, where to go, and how we can better serve you. And so just a reminder, there seems to be a lot of questions in our virtual general office with this, just to be mindful. Because of the mayor and the chances shifting that schedule, week 2 begins on Tuesday, September 29th, and that is Cohort C. Okay, that is very important that you have a very strong understanding if you're a family whose child is blended learning. And so if you're cohorts A, B, and C, it's very important that you get that schedule and that calendar correctly. It will be posted on the website, and we will be sharing that out and reminding you accordingly. So our plan for blended learning and full remote, as you know, a little bit of the rationale as to why the Chancellor's Office and the Mayor's Office and the Department of Education, along with New York City Public Schools, the original mindset on this was to, an agreement was made with our teachers, not, when I say teachers, not meaning PS42 teachers, but teachers at large. And so the agreement was that when we work with students come spring, a teacher will be provided for in-person, a teacher for blended, and a teacher for full remote. And so when doing so, they realized that there's a shortage, a tremendous shortage across the city, the 5 boroughs, PS42 being one of them. And with that shortage, there became a lot of limitations. I'm very happy to say that we are working towards that, and our school family, our faculty, teachers, staff, has been working because they made an agreement with me, and it wasn't something that I had to ask, but it was just agreed to, that we will do what we need to do in order to make sure every single child connects with a teacher every day, remotely, full remotely, and in person. And as we work through this challenge, we never wanted to shortchange children. It's important, and that's something I can say with confidence that we have in place, and we will continue working and modifying our schedules according to getting more and more support in. And I kid you not, my phone just lit up, and we just were able to retain another teacher. And this is someone, it's not about finding someone, it's about finding the right people. And so this is someone very familiar with us. And so we're moving towards that. And thank you again for patience. When we come up with these limitations, please understand that these shortages, they could result in, and it started to happen with us where we consolidated our classes. And as a result, when we consolidate, we maximize our in-person class sizes, but at the same time, we cannot exceed the social distancing capacity guidelines for each room. And so this is something that we needed to maximize because we're looking for more teachers, but at the same time, what could we do inside? What shifts could take place? And so that's what we've been doing, and thank you. When we do these practices, as a result, students can have multiple teachers. They will work in sync with one another, and they collaborate, and they will have the time for that. But there will be multiple pedagogues and teachers working with the cohorts. Whereas in the beginning, as we were messaging, it's been changing, and I'm sorry, I really am, and I mean that sincerely. But where, as a principal leading the school, I'm fully transparent, and this is something that I wouldn't do, I would love to have that same teacher, but the guidelines and the policies that we have, it's very difficult. But every time we make decisions, we do that in the best interest of our children and our families. And I'm grateful to work for the best teaching staff in New York City. Our cluster teachers will be utilized in a different capacity. We have teachers now that are reverting back to practices and working as classroom teachers, and some of our cluster teachers will be covering our teacher lunch programs and whatnot. But we're using all hands on deck and making this work. As more information comes out, we will keep sharing it with you accordingly. My overarching goal when we talk about students is it's very important that our classes always stay intact, and our assistant principals in the programming, with that was one thing we decided that, I'm optimistic, the glass is always half full. And so as soon as guidance allows us and the DOE policy and DOH policy allows us to come back into our schools full time, the new normal, but I love to get us all back in our school, standing in front of the building, doing stop, drop, and go with a lot of little feet passing us. I would love to have that happen. But when that happens, right, as soon as it happens, we still will have a plan to revert back to our ATS codes. And that's what we have. Every single cohort is still attached to an ATS, and that's important. If you're a family that is cohort D, an ATS code crosswalk will be provided based on our hiring and based on our current table of organization. We're going to be releasing that tomorrow, so everyone has an understanding of the who. It's not about numbers and classroom numbers. I understand, I'm a dad, and I understand teacher's name make people feel comfortable, and it helps resolve a lot of tension. So as soon as we have that information, we don't like to give it out 2-3 times. It causes frustration. But once we're really confident and ready, we'll be releasing that. And throughout this duration, regardless of the model, all student learning will include when you come in physically, or if you're in a blended or full remote, you will be engaged in live and posted instruction, which is a game changer of what we experienced last year when a lot of the instruction was posted. This time it will be live, which will be deeper, and the assistant principals, teachers, and I are working on setting a routine and a schedule so everyone has full awareness of what will be taking place each day. Health screening seems to be a very, very, there's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of wonderings about this, and I apologize for that, because anytime there's miscommunication, I own it. And I'm not sure why sometimes things get lost in translation, but let me start by simply saying health screenings are a policy of the Department of Education and the Department of Health. And so when students enter the building, these are the expectations for both students and staff, including myself, right? Everyone who comes in. So parents, what I'm going to ask you to do is utilize the health screening daily every morning. And my staff does the same thing using the app on your phone. The link is readily available. And when you arrive to school, you have to show that on and I have a slide that will show what it looks like. But that has to be done every single morning. If you don't have access to a smartphone or a device that will help you with that, or let's say grandma, grandpa, or a neighbor will be dropping your children off, you can use paper. You can download the paper and you have to fill out the screening, and that has to be shown. But everyone coming into the building, regardless of who's bringing them, they need to show clearance based on that survey screening. And it has to be answered in a fashion where it's green if it's on your phone. Allow me to show it to you in the next slide. So when you're prompted to do this screening on a phone, you sign in. This is what I have to do. In the right-hand corner, it's excellent because it has multiple languages to support the many families at PS42. And when you start filling out this information, this screening, you are prompted to answer 4 questions. And if you answer no to all 4, and each question is very weighted and very important. So be truthful, because as a community, if everyone does their part, we stay open. We stay open and healthy. So be honest, and you know what? I know you will, and we all do. So experiencing symptoms with COVID, did you get a result? Or have you been around someone who has COVID? All these questions, were you out of state or in a state that is on the travel advisory concern with New York State? Any of these, if you answer yes to any of those questions, right now, you're not allowed in the building, okay? But if you answer no to all these questions, the next slide will show you, you will get a check and a clearance to come into the building. So every point of entry will be looking for whether it's on a device or a piece of paper. It's very, very important that everyone does this. And you need to do this in the morning, not on your way. Like if you're like me, you make your lunch, you lay out your clothes, you're all ready to go, you get up and you're out the door really fast. Unfortunately, if you do it the night before, it only works for the day that you're doing it. So you have to do it on the actual day before you come in. When I conducted this, I actually did this. You can see the timestamp on it, and that permits me to be in a DOE facility on that day only. So that's important. You have to do that every morning for that school day. There's a lot of concerns our assistant principals were sharing with me, and as well as our front office and our parent coordinator. They're getting a lot of inquiries right out of the gate. So COVID testing, will the schools be providing, will they be doing testing at the school level? And the answer is, we are being told we will be, but we're honest. I'm honest. Right now, we're waiting for the very comprehensive information as to what that exactly will look like and when it will begin. And when you start talking and thinking about this, there's a lot of questions. What if I'm not interested, or I want someone doing that? I totally understand that. And I respect your opinion, and I respect everyone's mindset on this. But please allow us, once we get that information together, we'll unpack it and figure out a way to make sure that this is good for everyone. Temperature checks, that is something that will be taking place at every single point of entry. We will have multiple points, and that will be happening. And if anyone's temperature is over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, that's both students and staff. You will not be permitted in the building, and we will do temperature checks, which will be random at every point of entry. Of course, face coverings have become the new norm. We have our little pre-K people in the building this week. How great is it? They're coming in, they have their own little personal masks. And I have to tell you, I have no negative feedback from our teaching, our paraprofessionals and our pre-K teachers, that every student is able to, and they're doing a really good job. And if someone struggles, that's what we're here for, to work that out. But it's required. Face coverings is something that's very important. Hand washing must take place when students arrive to school. And again, when they leave the room, before they have lunch, after they have lunch, before they go home, hand washing, sanitizing at all times. It's very important. Students in blended learning models, cohorts A, B, and C, when you're coming to school, your start time will be at 8:30. If it changes slightly, that's only because we're going to make some slight modifications, and we're going to ask our classroom teachers to help us with the messaging. We're going to deputize them to really help us with that particular class on this particular day. We're going to modify, because we really want to monitor every cohort. Every day has a different flow of kids. And so that one size does not fit all. So we're going to ask our teachers and the teams at each point of entry to help make that call. And we might modify and stagger accordingly. When students come in, grab and go breakfast will be readily available. And when students are in their classrooms, they will also have access to lunches, grab and go lunches, and lunches will be brought up to their classrooms. And student lunches will be during instructional time. So the day involves 7 periods of instruction, and dismissal as well will be staggered depending on the flow, and our teachers will help message that. But that dismissal starts at 2 o'clock. And again, look for a little bit, if there's a shift, our teachers will be helping with that. When they arrive, please be mindful that we will be using multiple entry points. Every grade and every class will be having to really open up the school campus. We'll be utilizing every space available to us. The next slide, there's a map, and also the next slide gives you the breakdown. But some important pieces to be mindful of, that I want you to please be mindful. Masks at all times, temperature checks are random, come in with the screening, social distance at all times. We will have staff at each point of entry, monitoring temperatures and monitoring screenings, as well as making sure the right student is in on the right day. Staff internally will have ushers to make sure our kids will be traveling to the right location, especially someone new to the building or new to a specific grade, especially young students. But again, folks, trust me when I tell you, they're amazing. Our kids, you show them once, they get it, and they're very autonomous, and they're able to do amazing things. But they will never be unsupervised as they come in, okay? Ms. Garcia and I did a little joke. I got a lot of grief from my colleague, principal friends. My phone didn't stop lighting up over the weekend, but I just wanted to show you from a student's point of view what it's really all about. And the truth is, every one of our kids will be fine. I think the stress is mostly on the adults. And you know what? You're going to be great. You're leaving us with your babies, and thank you. We got this. We will have hand washing and sanitizing in every classroom environment to support that. Pre-K will be using the back door. Our Ks will be using the entranceway by the schoolyard, right? Not the doors itself where the blue matting is, but that exit right by the schoolyard. That will be the flow for arrival. When they walk in kindergarten, some students will be coached to go upstairs because their class is upstairs, and some will go right down the wing into their classroom. Adult supervision will be there, I promise. And we will also be monitoring and making sure everyone builds autonomy and independence, making sure that the door is open for them because that door is heavy for a little person. The details are covered. Grade 1 will be using the main door when the building is open. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but for general purposes, our front door will be the point of entry for grade 1, and the front door closest to the main building will be used for grade 2. Grade 3 will be used in the front doors of the main building. Grade 4 will be back corner Augusta and Wainwright by the gymnasium. And grade 5 will be using exit 3 right here on the corner by the flagpole, Wainwright and Genesee. We're asking everyone to spread out. Slow and steady wins the race, and we are anticipating no concerns with our arrivals and dismissal. Allow me to show you a little bit more. This is a perfect map. Save it on your phone. It kind of covers every angle. And so dismissal, a little bit of a difference. Dismissal might be staggered as per the teacher. Parents, wear your masks as well. Please do not use that time to have conferences with teachers. They'll be dismissing and they're on duty and they got a lot going on. I'm not saying what you have questions, your questions are not important, but please, let's allow them to do that job of safeguarding kids. And we promise you every question you have will be answered, but we have to utilize the best time and the best place. Once you pick up your children, no disrespect, you got to go, right? And so we got to go because teachers need to go inside, start prepping, but we do not want to keep the PS42 tradition of everyone hanging out, getting ice cream, hanging out in the schoolyard, having a good time. I grew up in this neighborhood and I did that every day after school. I had my best football games in that schoolyard at dismissal. However, we need to practice what we preach with our kids. And so I'm asking everyone to just follow the rules. Our parents will be deputies in helping this work out as well. Okay, please and thank you. If your student is a bus student, we will have a protocol, the traditional way of getting our students from the classrooms and then meeting in the auditorium and then getting on buses from there. We have to come up with a better safe sound practice that keeps their health and everyone in a good place. At the same time, making sure that our students are socially distanced and aligned to the schedules of the buses. I'll explain busing in a second. A little bit more with dismissal, just again to be mindful, the details are on this slide as well as the next slide with the map. But pre-K, same door that you're coming in, you'll be going out. Kindergarten will be using the same door as well. Very, very fluid dismissal. Everyone should be socially distanced. Grade 1 and 2 will be utilizing both the front and the annex back doors for the schoolyard. Please look at your class numbers. Take a look at where your class falls for this dismissal practice. There is social distancing markers throughout the schoolyard and in front of the building. We will have a team, our BRT team will be out there helping parents understand the lay of the land and getting deputized to do your bit. Grade 4 will be dismissed on the corner, the same door you're coming in. Grade 3 will be using the front door, and grade 5, same door as well. Save the map photo on your phone, whatever works for you, but this in a sense really is another way. If you're a visual learner like me, it helps. Student attendance is very important. There's no creativity on the school's level. The DOE gave very, very strict guidance and protocols and practices. But as a building principal, I just want to simply say, you're going to do your best when it comes to, if you're scheduled for today to be in school or it's your day. If you're healthy, come in. If you're not feeling well, that's okay. That is okay. Stay home. No one is going to be questioning you as to why someone's home. We're still in a pandemic and health is very important. These are the definitions and these are the finer details. This is a point of reference for you, but in order to be present, you physically have to be in the building for your blended days. And if you're working remotely, you virtually have to be present. It's not like we did in the spring where you're going to have, your parent or you log on at a certain time and complete the work and submit the work. This roll around is a little bit more comprehensive. Unfortunately, we don't have a practice or a policy that we can use for our own. This is what the New York City State Ed and Department of Ed, New York City Department of Ed has rolled out. If you have any questions, just please reach out to us. When students are in school, it's really important just to understand that they will be traveling out of the room. They need to use the bathroom or they have a related service provider. The weather's nice and they have gym that period. They will be in the hallways. We're not going to have crowds, but when they are in the hallways, there will be single file, limited movement. We don't want kids to feel like they can't leave the room. So if they need the bathroom or if they need to travel, whatever it is for a service, they will be always following protocols. All right, always single file, social distancing markers and whatnot are in the hallways. And when doing so, even as we plan our safety drills, they have not changed. We are still going to be executing, and it's a requirement, our safety drills, evacuations. But what we're going to do is going to do a protocol where we are going to be doing on a specific date and time, a certain floor at a time, not the entire building, because it is a drill. If there's an emergency, the preparedness will be there, but we can do the training and creating muscle memory with our kids by doing certain pockets and grades at a time. So that's going to be a little bit of a modification, but when students evacuate during these drills, we'll be walking out single file, 6 feet apart. So this is something that we're going to shift a little bit. Bathrooms are important. It's very simple. Not going to get into the nuts and bolts, but every single bathroom has signage both inside and outside, and we'll have a restroom coordinator outside. That will be there until we feel it's appropriate, until kids really start developing an understanding of social distancing, crowding in the bathroom, and depending on the age and grade level. But I really am confident that my upper grade students, and through the coaching and support of their teachers, as well as learning what's expected, that I can utilize staff in other capacities as well. But in the beginning, developing a culture, there will be someone outside supporting restroom coordination, making sure everyone has an understanding of what is allowed and not allowed. Stalls and bathroom facilities will have markers, green and red, etc. And so please point out, read over this slide. Again, it's a point of reference. It's always here for you. But all the details, I'm fully transparent. If you have a question, just feel free. Visitors to the building. So at any given time, if a child is sick, the nurse will be engaged in that conversation. And regardless of a child's grade, if you're a first grader, second grader, or a fifth grader, or pre-K, we're going to be utilizing the main building for all our visitor practices. We want to minimize as much as possible. So if there's a child that needs to be picked up, they'll be called by the school nurse and the main building, and very quick protocols. You will need to do the screening, signing in, everything appropriately, but everything we're going to be doing will be out of the main building. Parents, I'm asking you to please understand that if your child forgets something, that's cool. I forget something every day. My kids too. I have two in college. And so Mrs. Sharkey drove all the way down to Rowan University because my son forgot something. We don't do that in New York Minute. I have to work on that, but I'm going to ask you to work on it too. It's okay if someone forgets something. We will never let a child be uncomfortable or go without lunch or anything. And we have a lot of mommies here that will make sure everyone feels safe and sound. I'm asking you to do your part. Do not just come up and expect to be dropping something off, or I want to see so-and-so. We're going to be, everything will be done through a Zoom and a Google Meet, because the more people we have in our building, the more opportunities that we can have unhealthy conditions. You can end up, and our school family can end up being exposed. So we're looking really to make this work, and thank you in advance for that. Visitors to the classroom, same thing. We are working to make sure that very little movement and people come into our classrooms, because our classrooms are very much working in a pod-like, and we don't want to have, we want to reduce as much transitions as possible and visitors to the classrooms. Isolation room is simply, it sounds like a scary room. It always reminds me of the movie E.T., that home scene, but it's simply a room where a child who's not feeling well, and if a staff member or child is talking, you know, I don't feel right, I might have the symptoms, a school nurse, depending on what they're currently doing, will work with a child, talk with a child, and really do an assessment to see what's going on. We're not going to be doing all of that work itself in a nurse's room, because the nurse's room is also being used for a lot of our diabetic or any type of health issues that our current children deal with daily. And our nurses are very, very busy. We have 2 nurses for the 2 buildings. The expectation is both nurses will be supporting all children and adjusting their day and their flow of their work according to the needs of the school. The isolation room is where students who have concerns, and you feel they might have a concern, we're going to call you, we're going to talk about it, and they will stay there until you pick them up and bring them to your doctor for a test. So I'm responsible to assign someone to that room. That's going to be me, because I would like to just be very much part of making sure every child feels safe. I'm going to learn about it as well. And we have a staff that is not everyone wants to help out in that capacity too. So isolation room is a requirement for every school. So the wheels on the bus are finally going round and round. We learned from the DOE that the Office of Pupil Transportation is now in the process of scheduling and providing busing. And this was part of the rationale as to why the chancellor and the mayor needed a little bit more time to get the city up and running. Right now, we're learning that the last year's school schedule, when kids would come in and kids would go home, you know, the new schedule compared to last year's schedule, they're not identical, by no means. Students start their day here at 42 in this new model at 8:30 and go home at 2. The old bus schedule is what is currently being used. Unfortunately, they're working to modify that, but we're learning that students will be asked to come to school probably an hour before school actually starts and well after an hour after the school day ends. And as a result, we have a lot of students who are ending up sitting in, and I don't like that concept, unengaged. Not that I'm going to say you're unengaged. We're going to work and talk with your children, of course, but we're very limited because we have to be 6 feet apart. And so we have to make this work. I'm asking you to please, if you have the ability, to please let the bus schedule fall into sync. I do know that it is extremely important and you need that. And if that's something you need to do, just understand that the alignment in the morning and the alignment in the afternoon is not aligned to the school schedule. We promise you your child will always be safeguarded, but there's going to be a chance that a student can be here at the school well after the dismissal time, close to an hour, due to the current information that we received. The other thing I would like to ask you is to please be mindful when you put your child on the bus in the morning. And we will be doing the same thing at in the afternoon, making sure that every seat is marked 6 feet apart and students have to be wearing a mask at all times. please make sure your drivers are asking for the screening and making sure that drivers are doing their due diligence. They do not work for me. They work for Pioneer or the bus company that is hired as a contract. You have a concern, you tell us. We're going to do the same thing. But please, I think we have to work out the kinks in this, and I have a feeling it will be a little bit of time the first few days. If you have the ability to not use the ridership, please do so. Tardiness will not be held, we will not be held accountable if you're coming in late on those days because you have a conflict with busing. Let us know and we'll work with you. Students with IEPs. I mentioned before I have children, and one of them struggled with processing. And once we figured that out, auditory processing, so he required speech, and he's doing phenomenal. But I have to tell you, the traction that he was able to make is because the ongoing conversations we had with our providers. So I'm going to say to you, please do the same thing. I know you're doing it, and our providers do it well. And I don't need to explain this because you all get it, but it's worth reminding you. Because of these restrictions and because of these models and cohorts A, B, C, and all of that, if you have a child, we have about 25% of our students at PS42 currently have an IEP, okay? And if you have a child that has an IEP and you feel services, or you want to have that conversation and you want services delivered in a certain fashion, it all starts in a conversation. I trust tremendously our service providers, and I trust our parents. Our parents are knowledgeable. So have that conversation and make sure that your child's IEP, which is individual plan. So there's no way we can have one size fit all with students with IEPs. Have that conversation. Feel free to reach out to them, our assistant principals, parent coordinators. We will do what we have to do to make this work. But the beautiful thing about this all is services will be rendered both remotely and in person, and depending on the situation and the need. This is something that we didn't have access to in the spring. I'm excited about that. Devices, we're finally moving along in that. We still have devices that some of our students have when they articulated middle school. They're our former students, we love them. We're in the process of getting them back. We're also looking to retain the necessary funds to procure new computers for our new families, as well as any student who might have a device currently that has a faulty camera or microphone. Folks, to this hour, on this hour at this moment, the number of devices that we have in inventory and the number of devices that are needed in the community, they're not perfect, they're not aligned. We do not have enough, but we're working with every family and doing what we can. Thank you for your patience. If you have an uncle, if you have a family member who has access to technology that's not being used, I just want everyone to have access as much as possible. Okay, so please, if you have grandma, grandpa, or someone has a computer that you need on those specific days, and we're falling short in delivering that. Again, we're owning this, I'm owning this, but I'm honest, we're working on that. It's something that we have to get the funding and the procurement as well as matching those devices. This does not happen in a New York minute, but we're working towards that at the best pace we can. So if you can get access to something, please do it, another device, and we will continue to work with you. Unfortunately, on September 16th, we had to make a call. I put out a letter. I met with many people within the Department of Education prior to the letter going out. And every one of those conversations, I felt very much supported. And I also loved hearing what I was hearing, meaning there's a lot of accountability and questions being raised as to what happened to our building. I feel good about those conversations, but allow me to explain some details with you now, as well as some next steps and an opportunity for you to hear firsthand. First off, just to explain it in a narrative, the construction sites throughout New York City, including our site, we were open, we were doing construction up until March, and due to the COVID parameters and the concerns and restrictions, all construction was paused. And when that was paused, the contractor who was doing the work outside the building, if you look over at the illustration of the brickwork, the mortar in between each brick Certain sections of the building, the mortar was raked out, meaning removed, and should be followed up by repointing and replacing. When they did this work, they were doing a lot of raking and they were asked to step off the job. The job was paused. During that time, no one was on that job monitoring, unfortunately. The city is well aware of it. The school construction authority is well aware of it. And we raised those questions on the school level and everyone's aware of it. However, what I wanted to see happen, and it did, remediation, the water damage that took place since the spring up until late summer was being remediated both inside and outside. Due to the water infiltration, some of our furniture in the basement areas and some parts of the building experienced mold growth. We had it analyzed and tested by engineers who are fully transparent. And when we walked in the building, we just didn't like the way it felt, the way it had an odor to it. And so we were very fortunate. Our superintendent supported the school with no hesitation. Both superintendents, our executive superintendent and our superintendent for the community, both supported this without hesitation. The window of the school being closed, we looked for approximately 2 weeks, and the city is working at a pace, to me, is conducive for what they're doing. I told them, please do not rush this because we're not walking back in until it's appropriate and ready. And I'm treating it as if it's my own house. It has to be done right. To this day, right now, we have cleaning crews in there, industrial cleaning crews, coming in, cleaning up after the contracting work, which was plaster, mold remediation, cleaning, and painting. Everything is being done. And then we have a cleaning crew that's coming in that will be wiping every area down. Areas where students can sit, have access to books and materials, everything will be wiped down and cleaned and replaced. We are going to be replacing whatever we feel is not appropriate. This process is still ongoing. We are hoping to get back into the building as early as next week. That's when the window starts to close, but please allow me to specifically reach out to you to give you guidance. Until then, grades 1 and 2, please, we will continue working in a remote fashion. Before we go back in the building, once the cleaning crew is out, our custodians will come in, do a follow-up, make sure the building is appropriate and ready for our teachers. Our teachers will come in and make it their home, like they do every year and all the time, and they will make the building come alive. Every classroom will have that love and feeling, and teachers do that well. When they're ready, the natural progression will be for students to re-enter. But I'm going to ask you to give me an opportunity. If we time it, we will time it right. But depending on the flow and of the calendar, I would like to open up the building to an open house to any family, the annex building to any family who would like to come in and take a look at what's going on. I feel talking about it and putting out letters, that's part of it. If I ever lost your trust and your confidence, I apologize. This is something I take very seriously. But if I was a parent, we were thinking about it, what would make sense to me? And I would like to see it for myself. And so that's what we're doing. So we're going to provide an opportunity for you to come in, and we will have a social distancing protocol, and you sign up for a specific time. We're going to look to identify a time, not get a time to get it done, but a time that's conducive for us. At the same time, trying to get our kids back in as soon as possible. So I'll be working with the superintendent's office to make sure that that's something that can happen. We had a short conversation in the very beginning, and I am confident that if this is something we feel strongly about, that will be approved. And so please expect more information. I also would like to say that next PTA meeting, I'm asking for school facilities to be a visitor on that call, and also share from a facilities point of view the opportunity to provide you with all the details, as well as take any questions any families might have regarding the environment and the facilities and how this happened, all the details. I've had the chance to ask those questions. I feel you should have it too. Please expect more information on that. Finally, like anything else, if you have a question of one little thing that surfaced in today's call, let us know. Please reach out to us. The best place to do that will be on the virtual general office. and we get back to our parents as fast as possible. Okay, thank you very much for your time. I hope this was not too long, but I think this information is very important. Reference it on the website, whether you watch it through the Zoom call like this, or you want to preview all the slides. Each slide is comprehensive and it's self-explanatory. Give us a call if you need anything. We're looking forward to seeing everyone back next week, our students in A, B, and C, and we're also looking forward to working with all our students, A, B, C, and D. I can't believe our life became a series of letters, but this is, again, when you step back and think about the big picture, this is so much better than what we had in the spring. And I'm looking forward to continuing this journey with you all. Thank you all and enjoy the day.